What's up, guys? Austen Lane, ESPN690 radio, here with my three observations, my three takeaways from my humble abode, breaking down the Jaguars-Texans game here in London, and let's get into it. Obviously not a pretty look. The Jaguars lose 26-3. In my opinion, a must-win game, probably the most important game of the season. You look at the Jaguars now, they're 3 games behind the Texans in the division because if you count the tiebreaker, so they're 3 games right now behind. So they have a lot of catching up to do. A lot of things have to go in their favor now. They're 4-5, Texans 6-3. We'll see what happens with the Titans and the Colts later today. But now the Jaguars are going to have a tough hill to climb if they want to even get the wild card, let alone try to win a division. So my first takeaway of the day, and then the theme on the offense and defense is going to be identity. And the first takeaway is going to be on the defense. And when I say identity, look, I understand what the Jaguars are trying to do on defense, right? They want to rush 4, they want to play great coverage, and they want to get home with their 4 guys up front because they have a solid defensive line. You know, they have Josh Allen. They have Yannick Ngakoue. They have Calais Campbell. They have all these names. They have Taven Bryan, who's been playing better. They have these guys who, can get after the passer, but for whatever reason, and I can't put a finger on it, when they rush 4, usually they have problems getting home. And when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson who is comfortable back there, who can beat you with his feet, even if you're running games, those games take time to develop. And the thing about games sometimes when you run them is the fact that a quarterback can see the games being run and understand that, hey, there's going to be a hole open here. And Deshaun Watson not only beat the Jaguars with his arm, but also his footwork. And I think that when you're in need of turnovers, when you're in need of a big play, why not blitz? Why not send more than just 4 guys to get after Watson? Yeah, I understand. It's going to leave your secondary vulnerable a little bit, but look what happened in the Jets game last week. That very first drive for the Jets, Sam Darnold had his way, and they're picking the Jaguars apart. It wasn't until they started sending pressure is when the sacks started to add up, is when the turnovers started to add up, is when the interceptions started to add up. So from that perspective, I was a little disappointed to see that they didn't send more pressure. And that's in terms of identity. Right now, if you're the Jaguars defense, you have to understand, yes, you have good players in the defensive line, but for whatever reason, you guys can't get home. So you have to switch things up a little bit. Would have liked to see him blitz a little more and try to get after Watson, make him feel uncomfortable. He felt pretty comfortable the entire time back there, unfortunately. And also, we're back to the Carolina week. We're back to giving up over 200 yards rushing to the Houston Texans. And over 160 of those yards came from Carlos Hyde. Now, we broke it down in the show the whole week saying it was important that they stop the run. They had to stop the run and make Deshaun Watson, that receiving game, beat you. Well, I guess and maybe the Jaguars were overconfident. I was overconfident because, in my opinion, I don't think Carlos Hyde is a game wrecker. I don't think Duke Johnson is a game wrecker in the running game either. Obviously Deshaun Watson can beat you here or there with his legs, but I didn't come into this game thinking that the Jaguars were going to be vulnerable in the run game. And they were. And it comes down to what Carolina did a lot of, and it's all that window dressing. It's all that stuff in the backfield that guys are watching, guys are getting confused, guys aren't having the eye discipline, not maintaining their gaps on the defensive line. The safeties aren't coming to help. It's just, it's back to the Carolina game, and that's fundamentals. That's coaching, getting them ready. I understand the players got to make the plays. But the Jaguars probably haven't seen a lot of what they saw today from the Houston Texans in terms of, the cannon fodder in the back, some of the motions that they're seeing. And it looked like for some of those parts that they weren't ready for it. And also stopping Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson right now is playing an all-pro level. He's a dual-threat quarterback. And I thought when they started running some of that read option and things of that nature, the defense wasn't ready for it. And they absolutely should have been ready for it because Deshaun Watson is a dual-threat guy. And keep in mind, This is all against the Houston Texans offensive line right now that is a little depleted. You know, their best offensive tackle, well, their best offensive lineman in general, Laramie Tunzel, didn't even play today. All right? And the Texans still kind of had the way at the Jags a little bit. Now, yes, they got to Watson a few times, couldn't bring him down, but I would love to see some more blitzing, and we have to go back to the same thing against the Carolina Panthers. We have to go back to the fundamentals and teaching those again, because the next couple weeks you're going to go against some pretty good run games. Now, granted, they might not be as dynamic as far as how they approach it, but Derrick Henry knows he's going to run the ball. Marlon Mack and the Indianapolis Colts, who have probably one of the best offensive lines right now in the NFL, they're going to run the ball. So you have to go back to your fundamentals. And overall, too, I thought A.J. Boye, listen, you know, I mean, Jalen Ramsey's gone. Boye had to step up, and I thought he held DeAndre Hopkins to one of his lowest totals of the game. I thought A.J. Boye did a pretty good job. Now, granted, Hopkins had the touchdown, and that was on Boye, but it was pretty tight coverage. It was a nice pass, nice catch. But overall, all things considered, you have to feel confident with A.J. Boye now being your number one corner and him going on whoever the best receiver is of that opposing offense. My second takeaway, and once again, we're back to the identity, is the identity of the offense. For as long as I can remember, I feel like the offense, and this is even back when I played, you know, it was all about running the football, pounding the rock, and then setting up the pass. And that's no exception for this season as well. We know how important Leonard Fournette is to making this offense go. But I feel like if you're the offense right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you're John DeFilippo, you have to understand that you have to know who you guys are. And right now, the Jaguars are having trouble running the ball on first and second down. Simple as that. You know, I mean, I think they might have had one or two good plays on second down today that got them some decent yardage. But overall, they're not that good at running the ball, especially on those first downs. I think you have to kind of revamp the whole offense and say, like, you know what? We have the receivers. We have Chris Conley. D.D. Westbrook didn't play today, and I get it. Conley had that drop. You know, that was a rough one for him. But you have Chris Conley. You have DJ Chark, who right now is probably one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL, if not at least the AFC, according to his numbers. And then you have D.D. Westbrook, who was out today, but he'll be back. You have the guys to be successful, you know, and I don't care if it's Gardner Minshew or it'll probably be Nick Foles now. I don't care who the quarterback is. You have to understand that I feel like you have the passing game to dictate where the run game goes now. And you might have to start to look in that direction a little bit. You saw it against the Jets. The reason why Leonard Fournette got that huge gain in the first drive of the series was like a 70-yard run, was almost a touchdown. The very first play of that game, they split Leonard Fournette out wide. And they, you know, it was a spread formation. And the second play was that run for Fournette. So basically what they did was they set up the run with the pass. And I think going forward now, once again, like I said, either it's Minshew or Foles. Well, I don't care who your quarterback is at this point. I think you have to start relying more on passing the ball as opposed to starting off with the run, because teams are starting to get hip to the game. So we'll see if they can go on from there. But, you know, obviously, if you put 3 points up in a football game, not a good look. And I get it. You know, they had was really a turnover on the field goal. That wasn't a good look. But overall, you can't score 3 points to the NFL and expect to win anything. So I don't care who the quarterback is. You can't score 3 points. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. But I think, and I feel, I get it, Gardner Minshew, and this is my third takeaway, obviously. Once again, Minshew's always kind of the last takeaway. He always kind of leaves the last thing in your mind. This is a huge game for the Jaguars, obviously, in the division, but also a huge game for Gardner Minshew because it begged the question, can he go against a Houston Texans team, a division opponent, and produce? And to be fair, he had his worst game probably of his career so far. You know, the turnovers, the interceptions, the overthrown balls, it was not a good day for Gardner Minshew. Now, going back to my second takeaway, though, I feel like if you got him involved more in the pass game early on as opposed to running the ball, I felt like you could have did him some more favors. You know, when you go back to the box score, it's going to say, I think he passed the ball like, I want to say it's like 45, 46 times, but those numbers are deceiving because that was towards the end of the game when they had to pass the ball, when the game was kind of out of hand. I feel like if they would have relied on him more early in the first quarter and in the first half, maybe the outcome of that offense would have been a little different. So where do we stand now? Obviously, this was a big addition for Gardner Minshew. He had a rough one. Obviously, didn't pass with flying colors, unfortunately. Kind of failed this road test here in a new environment, playing in London. You have to go back to Foles. I would assume now. I think the Jaguars will be calling for Foles, especially with Doug Marrone's job still being on the line. That front office's job is still on the line after all. And you have to look at yourself and say, who gives us the best chance to win? So it's probably going to be Foles at this moment. I guess a positive or a minus, depending how you look at it. The positive is the Jaguars are on the road the next 2 games. And I know there still might be some of that crowd that wants, Gardner Minshew to still be in the to still be the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. At least now on the road, say Foles does have that first bad pass, that first interception, he's not going to be getting booed like he would be getting booed at home. People calling for Gardner Minshew again. So from that perspective, I actually like the Jaguars being on the road a little bit these next couple games. It'll be pretty telling. But overall, just it was a nightmare on all 3 phases. On special teams with the turnover, with that fumble, the defense surrendering way too much yardage, and then the run and pass game, and obviously the offense only putting up 3 points, not being able to run the ball, and not really having the identity like you want to see. So those are my 3 takeaways. Obviously, we'll break down a lot more come Monday on ESPN 690 from 3 to 6. We'll see you guys later.